It's Princess Beatrice, who of course was mocked roundly over the years for her dress sense, notably the hat that she wore to William and Kate's wedding in 2011. It was positioned as, it looked like fallopian
There is an
tubes.
unspoken agreement that comes with being born into the British royal family. You will be watched. Every step you take, every event you attend, every thread you wear will be photographed, dissected, debated, and remembered. For most royals, this reality shapes them into cautious dressers, people who reach for safe colors, modest hemlines, and perfectly coordinated accessories because the cost of getting it wrong is simply too high. But then there is Princess Beatrice, the elder daughter of Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson, a royal who seemed, for a significant stretch of her public life, almost magnetically drawn to the fashion choices that made headlines for all the wrong reasons. What makes Beatrice's story so compelling is not just the outfits themselves, but the journey they represent. From a young woman trying to find her footing in the unforgiving spotlight of royal scrutiny, to a confident, polished figure who eventually earned genuine praise from the fashion world, Beatrice's wardrobe tells a story that goes far deeper than fabric and accessories. It is a story about identity, pressure, public perception, and the very human experience of learning who you are while millions of strangers form opinions about you. But before the evolution came the moments that stopped people in their tracks, the outfits that left royal watchers speechless, the accessories that broke the internet, and the choices that had etiquette experts reaching for their rulebooks in disbelief. If there is one single fashion moment that defined Princess Beatrice in the public imagination for years, it is the fascinator she wore to the wedding of Prince William and Catherine Middleton on April 29, 2011. This was one of the most watched events on the planet. Over 2 billion people tuned in globally to witness the ceremony at Westminster Abbey. Every outfit worn by every notable guest was going to be photographed and analyzed. In that context, the pressure to get it right was enormous. And for the most part, Beatrice's ensemble was not without its merits. She wore a nude Valentino haute couture dress that was quietly elegant and well-fitted. It was the kind of dress that, paired with the right accessories, could have earned her quiet compliments. But the headpiece she chose that morning was anything but quiet. Designed by milliner Philip Tracy, the Fascinator sat atop her head in a construction of looping, pretzel-like swirls that jutted upward and outward in a way that seemed to defy both gravity and conventional taste. The shape was abstract, dramatic, and so unlike anything else at the wedding that cameras found their way back to it repeatedly throughout the ceremony coverage. Within hours of the first photographs appearing online, social media exploded. People compared the hat to a toilet seat, a pretzel, a satellite dish, and various pieces of abstract sculpture. A dedicated Facebook group mocking the Fascinator reportedly gathered over 130,000 members in a matter of days. Memes spread across the early internet with a speed that showed just how viscerally the public had reacted. The irony is that Philip Tracy is one of the most celebrated milliners in the world, and the hat itself was a genuine piece of artistic craftsmanship. But at a royal wedding, where every visual element is expected to complement the occasion rather than compete with it, the Fascinator felt wildly out of place. It drew attention away from the bride, created a visual disruption in every group photograph it appeared in, and gave commentators a talking point that outlasted the wedding coverage itself. 4 years afterwards, whenever Princess Beatrice's name came up in fashion discussions, the hat was mentioned in the same breath. It became her unshakable association, the accessory that followed her everywhere she went, whether she was wearing it or not. 7 years after the Fascinator incident, Beatrice found herself at another royal wedding with another opportunity to make a statement. When her younger sister Princess Eugenie married Jack Brooksbank at St. George's Chapel, Windsor, on October 12, 2018, Beatrice served as maid of honor. It was a role that traditionally demands a certain degree of visual deference to the bride. The maid of honor is meant to support, complement, and frame the bride's appearance, not to compete with it. Beatrice arrived in an electric blue gown paired with a matching headband. And while the dress itself was elegant in construction and the color suited her complexion, the choice created an immediate visual tension with Eugenie's soft ivory wedding aesthetic. Royal weddings operate on carefully coordinated visual palettes. The bridal party is typically dressed to create harmony and cohesion in photographs, with everything flowing together in a way that keeps the focus firmly on the bride. Electric blue does not flow quietly into anything. It announces itself. It demands to be seen. Fashion commentators noted the disconnect almost immediately. Photographs from the ceremony showed the striking contrast between Eugenie's delicate ivory gown and Beatrice's vivid blue ensemble. Some observers were generous, praising the boldness of the color choice and pointing out that Beatrice carried herself with complete confidence throughout the day. Others were less charitable, arguing that however unintentionally, the maid of honor's outfit had pulled visual focus away from the bride at her own wedding. In the world of royal etiquette, where the expectation is that nothing and no one overshadows the couple on their wedding day, this was considered a significant breach of unspoken protocol. If the Fascinator and the blue bridesmaid dress generated confusion and amusement, the outfit Beatrice wore to the funeral of Prince Philip on April 17, 2021 generated something closer to genuine shock among royal protocol enthusiasts. The occasion was one of the most solemn events in the royal calendar. Prince Philip had served the crown for decades, and his funeral at Windsor Castle was watched by millions around the world. The expectation for attendees was clear: impeccable mourning dress, restrained elegance, and absolute adherence to the visual codes of respectful grief. Beatrice wore a long black collared coat dress that, at first glance, appeared appropriate for the occasion. The silhouette was clean, the color was correct, and the black velvet fascinator she paired it with added a note of traditional formality. But as photographs from the event circulated, observers noticed something that set the fashion commentary world alight. Beatrice was not wearing stockings. Her legs were bare beneath the coat dress, a detail so small in isolation that it might seem unworthy of comment, and yet in the context of a royal funeral, it was treated as a significant departure from expectation. Royal dress codes for formal mourning occasions have long included the wearing of hosiery. It is one of those quiet, unwritten rules that royals are expected to absorb almost instinctively. The Queen herself was famously associated with the expectation that female members of the family wear nude stockings to formal engagements. At a funeral of this magnitude, the absence of hosiery was immediately picked up by etiquette commentators and fashion journalists alike, who described it as a jarring detail in an otherwise appropriately composed outfit. Social media was less restrained, with many users pointing out the contrast between the formal upper half of her appearance and the unexpectedly bare legs below. It was, by any measure, one of the more unexpected fashion controversies of the royal year. The following year brought another headline-making moment. In March 2022, a Thanksgiving service was held at Westminster Abbey to honor the memory of Prince Philip. It was a formal and deeply meaningful occasion for the royal family, a chance to gather together and commemorate a life of service. Beatrice attended dressed in a black coat dress, which was appropriate enough, but her choice of headwear immediately drew attention from royal protocol experts. She wore a broad headband topped with a black veil that partially covered her face. It was a striking look, and in isolation it might have read as dramatic but stylish. The problem, according to royal commentators, was one of specific protocol. Black facial veils, in the tradition of royal mourning dress, are typically reserved for occasions of the very highest solemnity, specifically, funerals honoring a king or queen. They carry a particular significance that places them in a category apart from standard mourning accessories. Using them at a Thanksgiving memorial service rather than an actual state funeral was seen by etiquette experts as a misapplication of one of the most symbolically loaded accessories in the royal wardrobe. The tabloids were divided in their interpretation. Some treated the veil as a touching personal tribute, a sign of deep affection and grief for a grandfather figure she had known her entire life. Others pointed out that however sincere the sentiment behind it, the choice reflected a misunderstanding of the specific protocols governing royal mourning dress. Social media added its own layer of commentary, with users comparing the dramatic headpiece to Gothic fashion and questioning whether the occasion had called for something quite so theatrical. What the moment genuinely revealed, beyond the jokes and the criticism, was the impossible tightrope that royal women walk between personal expression and institutional expectation. Beatrice was grieving. She chose to express that grief through her clothing in a way that felt meaningful to her. And yet even that private impulse became subject to public scrutiny and protocol analysis. Not all of Beatrice's controversial fashion moments occurred in the context of formal royal occasions. In 2015, she attended a high-profile Alexander McQueen gala in an outfit that felt more Hollywood red carpet than British royal event. She wore a sleeveless black tuxedo gown featuring a thigh-high slit that drew immediate attention, paired with black cutout stilettos and finished with a striking red lipstick. Taken individually, each element of the look might be considered glamorous and fashion-forward. Taken together, at a formal event attended by a member of the royal family, they added up to something that many considered a significant stretch of acceptable boundaries. Royal women are generally expected to keep hemlines modest, avoid sleeveless dresses at formal occasions unless the context specifically permits them, and stick to understated makeup palettes that do not draw attention. A thigh-high slit at a gala, combined with bold red lips, pushed against all three of those conventions simultaneously. Fashion critics were split. Some admired the confidence and saw a young royal finally finding her style voice and wearing it with conviction. Others felt that the combination of elements was simply too much for a formal occasion bearing the royal name, and that the outfit reflected an experimentation phase that occasionally overreached. At a 2017 Victoria and Albert Museum party, Beatrice stepped onto the red carpet in a nude and navy lace dress that became one of her most talked about fashion moments of that era. The dress was undeniably beautiful in its construction, intricate lace over nude fabric, delicate embroidery, and a silhouette that showed genuine style instinct. But the sheer panels in the gown revealed considerably more than royal modesty guidelines typically accommodate, and the absence of stockings once again amplified the effect. Tabloids described the look in terms ranging from daring to inappropriate, with some going as far as calling it a breach of royal modesty that pushed well beyond the boundaries of what was expected at an event attended by a working royal. The conversation that followed was a familiar one by this point in Beatrice's public fashion journey, a mixture of admiration for the boldness of the choice and genuine concern that the execution had misjudged the occasion. What is remarkable, looking back across all of these moments, is not simply that they happened, but what they collectively reveal about the experience of being a royal woman in the age of social media. Beatrice was navigating her identity in public, with every experiment photographed and every misstep amplified to a global audience. The Fascinator at William and Kate's wedding, the bare legs at Prince Philip's funeral, the black veil at the memorial service, none of these choices appear to have been made with the intention of causing controversy. They were the choices of a person working out who she was and how she wanted to present herself to the world, under conditions of extraordinary public pressure. By the time Beatrice married Edoardo Mapelli Mozzi in 2020, wearing a borrowed and altered vintage gown originally worn by Queen Elizabeth herself, something had shifted. The choice was still unconventional by royal standards. Tradition holds that royal brides commission new gowns, but the spirit behind it was different. It was personal, meaningful, and quietly sophisticated rather than accidentally provocative. In the years since her marriage, her style has